What is going on, everyone? Chris with Journos, Comics, and Pop Culture. Today's video is going to be deep diving into speculating in comic books. This amazing contributor, Terry, I'm probably gonna butcher his name, Terry Hawkness. Okay, I apologize, Terry, if you're watching this. This individual is subscribed to many Facebook groups, and whenever I don't know him personally, but whenever I see him post in these groups, I value everything that he has to say. Not to say that I agree with him 100% of the times, but quite often I really do. I think he's been in the hobby for a very, very long time, and he posted this speculating 101, and I wanted to take the time to share with you what Terry wrote. And I suggest that if you guys are on Facebook and you participate in some of these comic book groups, check out Terry's stuff because he has a lot to offer. Now, before we dive into his post, if you guys aren't subscribed to the channel, please take some time to do so. Check out all the links in the description below. And again, as always, before we get into the discussion, I want to take less than 60 seconds to thank and shout out today's sponsor, popculturezone.com, and to showcase their awesome pressing services. Today's video was sponsored by Pop Culture Zone Pressing Services. If you need your comic books pressed, I personally vouch for Pop Culture Zone as being one of the best professional companies in the game, offering hands down the lowest prices out there. Services start at only $9.99, and every order placed will receive free fast track turnaround times. Even though I press comics for my personal collection, whenever I need a professional press for my key comics, I send them off to Pop Culture Zone, and every single book that I've received back, every single one, has had results that have exceeded my expectations, and I am sure that they will exceed your expectations as well. Make sure you go check the link in the description below to head over to their website, popculturezone.com, for complete details on services and how to begin your order. All right, guys. So the truth of the matter is this: speculating is a big part of the comic book hobby and industry, and it's been that way for a very long time, for decades, and it still is. No matter the state of the economy, the state of the market right now, no matter the intense hype around FOMO or movie spec, etc., it is a very big part of this hobby. And we are going to break down what Terry had to say here, and let's just dive into it, folks. Now pay attention, because this stuff is really awesome, and he gets really deep and thorough into his breakdown. All right, he says these are mostly tips for beginners, but hey, look, we all can, always learn as well. Things you must know if you are investing and or flipping new comic books. We will discuss facts you must know, or you will get burned. I love this. Basic things that people seem to forget or need to remind themselves of. If you are doing quick flips with modern comics, there are a lot of obstacles which the best of us have tried to conquer. I'm sure this is actually true. So let's break these down one by one. Number one, timing. If it's going to become hot, when? Why? If it's a massive print run book speculated by everyone, the market will be saturated if everyone tries to sell it at the same time. Example, Star Wars comics in December 2015 when new movie debuts. So you need to really have a feel for when the time is right. Number two, research. And I always stress this, always. Do your due diligence. Those who are lazy and don't really know enough will make bad choices guaranteed. We all have. Yes, very true. You need to know print runs. And look, print runs are one factor. Print runs don't make or break, but hey, you need to know print runs. Current market value. Is it been moving lately? What are all the major comic sites that might have copies for sale, including the publishers themselves? Did Diamond sell out of copies yet? Have you asked around to see if all other comic shops in other cities have sold out? Does the book have long-term potential? Why is it hot in the first place? Is it a fad? Most new books are only hot for 1 week. And Terry, I absolutely agree with you on this. There is that short-term hype, and you really need to focus and sift through that to push aside the short-term hype for that, like you said, long-term potential, right? All right, let's move to number three here. Cost of speculating. there's always going to be a cost benefit of analysis, folks. Cost of speculating. Is that book really going to triple in price? Now, before I continue on with this, what have I stated recently? I made a couple videos talking about this. The majority of new comic books are like any other commodity that we can buy off the shelves. They lose value once you drive them off the lot, so to say. So, again, is the book really going to triple in price? How much do you have invested? Do you buy more than one copy? What other books did you lose money on that you shouldn't sell? Or that you couldn't sell, excuse me. How much are eBay and PayPal fees, shipping costs? What is your time worth? Gas costs, driving to the comic shop each week in the post office. All these things are fixed costs and variable costs. And you got to consider all of those costs into really looking at what is your profit margin. Number 4, buying the wrong books. Why do you think the book will be hot? Gut reaction. Now, this kind of goes to a little bit about what he said, I think, in number 2. Is it a gut reaction based on any actual demand? Are the reviews good? Did you find out everything about it? I constantly, I think he means to say, I constantly see or hear people buying up at least 10 to 20 different comics each week. They're obviously hoping something pays off. This method does not work as you are spending too much, as it's likely only one of the 20 will increase. And again, Terry, I agree with him. 19 out of 20 books of those new releases are going to increase in value, let alone are you going to be able to sell them for what you paid for them, right? Number 5, eBay prices. These change constantly, but luckily there are a lot of listings, so check sold listings, and comparing the number of copies available will let you know what is going on. And absolutely, and again, eBay is just one venue, so take that into consideration as well. And again, number 6, patience. I stress this all the time. Due diligence and patience, 100%. Possibly the most important thing, he says, do not dump your books if you think you picked a dud book. If you fill the market with copies discounted cheap, then you psych everyone out into thinking the book is truly worthless. It will never be worth anything this way. Better off to keep the book or trade them off for other books that might make you money. Do not flood the market. You need the book to appear as scarce as possible for shoppers so that they will feel the urgency to buy. Now, you can look at this and be like, well, that's kind of manipulative and deceiving, is it? Or is it just a power play, a business move? Continuing on here. Patient speculators do the best. You may have to buy a book and sit on it for 6 months or 2 years. Absolutely. Most books do not increase value quickly. Only the hottest of the hot books sell out instantly. If you want to make money overnight, you better study hard and find out what type of books sell out overnight and why. And I think a lot of the ways that people like flippers benefit on this is they do pre-sales. They know that new Spider-Boy book's coming out. They'll do pre-sales. They'll do 9.8 pre-sales because they know that they're going to, send a bunch off to CGC and get 9.8 pre-screens. So because, a month later, they might not be worth as much, might not be worth anything. But then again, you got to consider here to what Terry's saying is like, some of them may increase. You do have to have patience. Some of them may increase. It may take a couple of years. But again, when you're talking about modern books, the majority of them end up in back issue bins or bargain bins selling for less than cover price. And that's just a fact of the matter. And so far, I'm really liking what Terry has to say, but I would actually add in and stress that point a little more. Let's see if he might. We're going to move on. Number 7, resources. There are so many free chat boards, Facebook, speculating websites that give you all the info that you need. You really should not lose in this day and age. It's easier and safe. Oh, let me stop. You really should not lose in this day and age. I mean, I think Terry here is this is kind of a conundrum because I just don't think it's that black or white saying that you really shouldn't lose. It is definitely more nuanced than that because I think even a good speculator or a good reseller, you're gonna lose out on some, but what you win out on is going to allow you to profit more to keep your profit margins up in the positives and in the green next to what you lose out on. Every time we buy index of books, so to say, or a catalog of books. Some of them are we're gonna take a hit on. Some of them we're gonna make a big profit on. Some of them might break even, and then hopefully at the end of the day, you're in the green, knowing all of that. So I this is where I kind of don't really agree with this language. You really should not lose in this day and age. I mean, maybe he means in general and not just by one or two books. Let's move on. It's easier and safer than ever to speculate wisely. Use all the sites I posted down below and read all of them once a week and stay caught up on the news. Reading a couple hours a week could make you hundreds of dollars in profit. Now, overall, I do agree with them. I think it's just kind of the language. I think it seemed like he was kind of summing it up, making it a little too black and white. But I ultimately agree here with, again, this is part of doing your due diligence. And he's right. We have information at our fingertips. All right, number 8, and I think this is very vital too, paying too much. If you are buying it to make money, then why are you offering so much to get it? Absolutely. Don't be too jumpy to get a copy. If you know more copies will surface, then hold out or go on the chat boards or Facebook and find a copy at a reasonable price. It's very common that people overpay for variants in pre-sales and even the week of release. And how did I say people make their money? Pre-sales. Yep. So if you're trying to be a reseller or a flipper or a speculator, and you're not really doing it wise if you're buying up the high price pre-sales, because those people are flippers and resellers, etc. If you are buying to flip, how you are determining the price will go up that you know you can get the markup. If you are buying a book just for your own collection, well, then wait for a deal. And of course, that's completely different as well. Number 9, CGC books. This is a book one for me. All the newbies tell me that CGC books go up in value faster and better than raw, ungraded books. But it is just not true. And Terry hits the head on the nail right here. A CGC 9.8 book will only go up in value if the raw copy is going up. Absolutely in it. And you guys have seen a trend right now. While we over the years can say if a 5.0 or a 9.0, no matter the grade in the CGC, roughly moves on the market upwards to 30 to 40% in value, you usually see their raw counterparts moving up the same. But graded books as of late have been moving slower than raw counterparts sometimes. So this makes this fallacy even more of an issue right now, to where Terry is making such a strong point. If the raw book does not move up, then the CGC 9.8 copy usually drops in value. Absolutely. As more and more copies hit the market and the CGC census fills up, prices usually drop. Do your homework, 100%. All right, number 10. Holding hot books too long. If you have already made some profit and the odds of it stalling are coming, do not wait. Better to make some profit while the book is an easy sell rather than waiting a day too long when nobody wants it any longer and you get stuck with it. Now, you're saying, man, this is such a conundrum, because he was just saying, like, know when to be patient. And that's the thing. Some books you got to be patient. Some books you need to know when to move and move them quick. All right, number 11. Do not buy too many copies. It seems there is no sure thing in life. Facts. If you think a book will double in value and you buy 100 copies, the question is, how long will it take you to move those 100 copies 100%? In many cases, a book heats up, you sell about 20 of them for good profit, and then it cools off again and you are stuck with 80 copies. In the end, you actually lost money because you didn't make the money back to pay the original cost for the 80 copies that are left over that you can't move. 100%, Terry. Ah, man, good stuff. All right. Terry now goes into some questions that people ask every day. Number 1, how do I find out the print run of a new comic? You cannot. No data is ever released. And this is something that tickles us comic collectors, if you didn't know. Sometimes we get rough estimates, and we can really use those as a valid key number. But yeah, like it's this. I wish we had a number released for the public for every single copy of a book made, but we don't. A month after its release, Diamond will publish how many copies were ordered of all covers combined. They never publish the print run of variants ever. You can get a rough estimate of print runs of variants by doing some basic math, diving into the ratio numbers 1 to 50 by the total print run, etc. Comics from 1996 to 2015 are listed with print runs at Comic-Con, which I use. It's a great resource. You search the title and the issue number. Comics from the 50s to 1996, email Terry, guys. He is just a member of this community that loves sharing his information with you. So there is his email. It's his last name at hotmail.com. He will give you an estimate. How amazing of this man to do this for the community. That is so freaking awesome. Question number 2. How do I know the comic will go up in value? You don't. It's based simply on supply and demand. And of course, supply and demand it's not always simple, but that's the basic root groundwork of it all. Do you have something people want? Is your price reasonable compared to other sellers? 99.9% of all new comics, regular covers, and variants never go up in value. Fact, and like I said, they often drop. It's just paper. You should not be buying that comic if you need to read this question for the answer. Question number 3. What should I buy this week? Every week in advance of release, I write an article telling how many copies are left in Diamond, and based on my experience, the odds of a book going up in value. This is just the most important resource to use to make smart picks. Keep in mind, nothing is ever guaranteed. So here is a website, folks. It's his last name, comics.com. You do /comicsgamble.htm. More resources from Terry. Awesome stuff. Are any comic books from the 1990s going to be valuable? There already are, so there's already answered that question. And he says, for some reason in the 1990s, due to good marketing and a growing fan base, a certain batch of superhero-related comics with top-notch artwork become the frenzy of collecting. And even with massive print runs, everybody thought these books would be a good long-term investments. Unfortunately, the hobby shrunk, and with less and less comic collectors, there were too many copies of certain books on the market, what makes it very hard for these books to ever become valuable because supply is too large. This will never happen again simply because the fan base of comic collectors is too small. But we do have small mini waves of this where some books are mass produced and flood the market and will be unlikely to ever become valuable in the future. But again, like I said, you can't just sum up every book just because of the 90s. You can't sum up every book because of the print runs, because even with print runs and even with the number of collectors out there, obviously there's more demand for other books. You can have a print run of a comic that has a 30,000 print run, but there's no demand for it and it's not going to be valuable. You can have a comic book that has a 500,000 or 1 million print run, but the demand for it is still extremely high, which is going to make the value go up. Doesn't mean it's ever going to be $1,000 or a $5,000 book, but I mean, that's why New Mutants 98 runs in hundreds of dollars, and if it's in a 9.8, it's over $1,000. And then you get a lot of solid books from the 90s that are worth anywhere from $50 to $100 in high grade, because there is solid demand. But again, because there's so many out there, that solid demand doesn't mean it's going to be worth anything like silver or bronze age books, or even some copper age books. All right, moving on here. 5. Will the print run increase if speculators want it? Not really. It's comic store retailers who order the products. Exactly. It's hard to gauge the secondary market affecting the primary market on that, because but this is changing. This is changing because you have so many online retailers now that speak directly to speculators, and you see that with like the variant market in exclusive variants. So this can definitely evolve. The only way speculators influence print run is if they all order mass quantities in pre-sale and influence the actual print run. Otherwise, all speculators are doing is guaranteeing a book does sell out when it hits shelves if a bunch of collectors buy it multiple copies. I'm gonna not necessarily disagree with Terry here, but I'm gonna add this piece. Speculators absolutely can influence the market more and more now by even incentive variance. Because if a store owner or a retailer thinks that there's enough speculation on the incentive variant, then that can impact the print run because it can push orders up. And then the publishers could say, well, we need to have a higher print run of this book because we're offering such good incentive variance with it, 1 in 50s, 1 in 25s, etc. All right, so I'm going to get to these last few questions here. If a book has a high print run, is that a guarantee that the book will never increase in value? It definitely hurts the odds, but it's not guaranteed. Supply and demand, if people keep hunting out back issues of a title constantly, month after month, it will increase and increase. Recent examples: Batman number 1 through 10, Guardians of the Galaxy number 1 through 5, yada, yada, yada. And I also like to add that, we focus so much on print run, but you got to understand too, if a book gets hot, it is a matter of what's available on the market. I mean, why was Terry earlier talking about don't flood the market? You got to be smart. You want to make it appear as if it's as scarce as possible. So even Terry, not to say that he's contradicting himself here, but you got to understand that scarcity and rarity, and it speaks to what's available on the market at any given time. If there is a book that has a million print run, but everyone's holding on to them and they're still decently tough to find, especially in high grade on the market, then that's if the demand increases the current supply, that's what matters. You can't always say, well, the demand will never hit a million. A million copies aren't floating around out there at once. So that's something that you got to take into consideration as well. And that's why I don't always focus on print run. If a book is reprinted, does that mean the first printing will go up in value? No. And I'm not going to dive into this. I think it's a completely different collectible in and of itself. Number 9, if a character is going to be in an upcoming movie or TV show, will it go up in value? Let's see what Terry has to say about this. If the importance, I think he meant to say, of the character is large, and up to this point the values are low, then yes, the new energized demand will drive prices up on first appearances, origin issues, and other key issues. This may be very short-lived though, depending on how popular the character is. If the character's key books are already expensive, it will not likely go up in value. I'm gonna slightly disagree with what Terry is saying here. To say that, and it's not really a disagreement, it's more of adding proper context. Here's the thing. A book that's already valuable, let's look at Thanos' first appearance. That book increased in value and it was already valuable. And it increased in value because of the live action hype. But then what did it do? It dipped off again. But then it gradually increased again because it is intrinsically, the intrinsic value already existed. What are other examples that I can think of from the MCU that, oh my gosh, I mean, Doctor Strange's first appearance increased when we knew Doctor Strange was coming to the MCU. It's not that black and white to simply say there is no live action spec or rumors or hype that's going to increase a book that is already valuable. I don't agree with that one bit. But that value, the way the value moves definitely is different because it already has intrinsic value there regardless of the movie hype or not. Where books that weren't really looked at before, it's going to be more volatile in terms of how that value moves depending on that spec. And I always talk about the bell-shaped curve. We get an announcement, it moves up, we get a trailer, it moves up, we get the movie, it starts to dip off, and then the excitement dies down unless the character is really holding it strong. We know how it works. All right, last couple of questions before we end the video here, folks. Why do comics go up in value? Any items that are deemed undervalued have market corrections when people take notice. This could be often very short-lived. I agree with this here. Sometimes books have massive jumps, as much as up to 1,000% overnight, but then stall as they are no longer undervalued. And I like that he has that in parentheses because it's like, how do we determine undervalued, right? Whether dealing with new comics or vintage comics, the same rule applies. When people take notice of a book that seems to be a deal in comparison to other similar books of genre or age or importance, people jump on it, and this new attention finds people cashing in and marking it up and creating a newfound market. Inhumans, Squirrel Girl, Guardians were mostly ignored characters until there was an awareness brought to them, and then they all had market corrections. Very well stated on that one for sure. And then number 11, where can I see a list of all upcoming comics with release lists and cover images? So he puts some awesome links here, comiclist.com. Here is an extended list for months in advance for the major publishers. So comicslist.com as well, so you guys can go check that out. How do I find how much a comic is worth? He said go to eBay. But I'm going to say it like this. We got to stop using eBay as the only reference. It's a solid reference, but I've made videos where I've talked about like marketplace matters. A comic book's value is going to change depending on the marketplace that you are purchasing it from, or if you're selling it on the marketplace that you were selling it from. And I'm not going to get too much into the details and explain that right now. I have videos talking about that, but that is very, very important. I often use a cover price as well because they bring in real-time sales from multiple sources, but I don't just use one source. I use cover price, I use eBay, and I use other sources as well. And again, if you're a seller, if you're selling online, next to selling in person, selling at a con, selling at a shop, all those variables matter. But overall, folks, big shout out to Terry because he has a lot of information to give, and I hope you all took some awesome or got some awesome takeaways from this. And go, email him if you need to look for resources. He left his website there as well. I'll leave it on screen right here. Again, there it is. So again, I would love to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments below on what Terry's takes on speculating in comic books in 2023 might look like. Share your thoughts below. Thank you guys so much for watching. And again, if you aren't subscribed, please take some time to do so. Be well, and until next time.